Hey everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk Forex. I'm Alison, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host and colleague Chris.
Hey, Alison. Today we're going to be diving into one of the most common traps that traders fall into, which is overtrading and making impulsive decisions.
Yeah, so if you've ever taken a trade just because you're bored or because you wanted to make back a loss, then this episode's for you.
Yeah, Alison, so overtrading, it's something that we've talked about a lot on this podcast, but I think this is the first time we're actually going to go into it in any detail and what it means and some practical steps to avoid it. It often flies under the radar. I think a lot of Forex traders do it and don't even realize sometimes that they're doing it, but it eats away at your performance. It will drain your confidence over time and it'll drain your capital, more importantly. And it can also really have a detrimental effect on your focus.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of traders think, the more I trade, the more I make. But in reality, more trades often mean more bad trades.
Exactly. And it's not just a technical issue either. I mean, it's emotional here, what we're talking about, So there's boredom, frustration, revenge, FOMO. These are all triggers for overtrading.
Yeah, in order, and there's a few telltale signs that what the triggers are, and the most common ones are boredom trading. So this is obviously when the markets are quiet and you're just itching to take a trade. Another one is revenge trading, something I think most of us are guilty of, and this is obviously trying to win back after you've lost a trade. As you mentioned there, Chris, there's FOMO, so fear of missing out, and that's often when you're chasing a move that you've missed. And then social pressure. On social media, we often see people celebrating huge wins and you want to be part of that. So you compare yourself to others and this often causes bad trading decisions.
Yeah, I think that last thing you touched on there is really important. I mean, and it's my issue, I think, with all these WhatsApp groups and Telegram groups, where people are trading signals and stuff and sharing ideas, is while, idea sharing can be good, it does create the social pressure to keep on trading even when it doesn't fit your trading plan. It can be really dangerous. So we've all been there. I think the trick is to ask yourself, what's really driving this trade? And is it in your plan? Or is it some kind of emotional response that you're having?
Yeah, and I guess the most important part of that is awareness. Mark Holstead talks about, the psychology behind it, and he talks about a cycle where you overtrade, you regret it, and then you overtrade it again. It's a loop. And the more you do it, unfortunately, the more you reinforce it. So you reinforce those neurons doing that same thing over and over again. And that's where you get into a real difficult spot with trying to break that cycle.
Yeah, no, the negative feedback loop can be really hard. And as I said at the top of this, a lot of people don't even realize they're in a negative feedback loop, until it's too late. So, but the good news is that you can break this cycle if you recognize yourself in anything we've said here. And as you said, Alison, it all starts with awareness. You've got to know yourself and you've got to know your own trading patterns and you've got to know your emotional patterns and how you respond to those emotions.
But we've also got some practical tools. And the first one is the trade limit challenge, which I find very effective.
Yeah, exactly. So you want to set a limit. So that's 2 or 3 trades per session. That sounds restrictive, but it forces you to be selective. It forces you to discard a lot of ideas that don't fit into your trading plan quite as well as they should. And you'll start asking yourself, is this trade really worth one of my trades here that I'm going to use today?
Yeah, absolutely. It makes you slow down. It makes you, more thoughtful about your trading process. And it also helps you to avoid just clicking for that dopamine hit to see, oh, maybe I'll get this. Maybe it'll go in my direction. Yeah, I think it's a very important part of that process.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. The next one is the 2-minute pause. And I think it's something else we'll all discussed in the past. But before you place a trade, you want to start a timer. You want to start that time. You want to set it for 2 minutes. And now that allows you to review your checklist, to calm down, to let the adrenaline flush out of your system, and to actually look at that trade more rationally before you jump into it.
Yeah, it's basically a pattern interrupter, if you will. Instead of just see it and click it, you start to think, is this really part of my plan? And you'd be quite surprised to see how often the answer is actually no, and how grateful you'll be that you didn't jump in at that moment.
Yeah, I think that's true. And that's an example of positive feedback, I think, is when you see that, oh, wow, I'm really glad I didn't take that trade because it didn't fit into my trading plan. And you begin to trust the process, and you'll begin to trust the idea, and you'll reinforces your discipline. It's a really good idea. So you also want to think about building a no overtrading plan here as well. So you want to build that discipline into your daily routine. So you want to set a maximum trade limit. I mean, we've discussed there just now, but you want to set one for yourself that fits into your trading plan. You want to define a loss limit or a drawdown cap, how much you're going to lose on any given day. You want to have a post-trade review process. We've talked about this before. So this is including journaling, and that means talking about your emotional state, obviously your entries and exits and your losses and everything, but it allows you to reflect over your trading day. And then there's something that we like to talk about is a confidence bank, which I think is a really cool idea. So every disciplined action that you take should be seen as a deposit in your confidence banks, every action that fits into your trading plan. And then every impulsive one that you take, every impulsive decision, that should be a withdrawal. And then over time, you should see how impulsive you're being when you're trading. And hopefully, as we said, they'll create this awareness. And then you see how, and hopefully over time, once you've got that awareness, you'll realize that you need to be making more deposits and withdrawals in that confidence bank.
Absolutely. I think that idea is absolute gold. And it also helps you to weather the drawdowns, and it helps you to recover quicker when things don't go your way. So, that the confidence bank is a really important part of trading. The psychology of trading, I think, is more important than people realize. And as you were saying, Chris, you want to build up positive feedback when you do the right thing, whether you do or don't take the trade, depending on your trading plan, should build your confidence rather than building your confidence when taking a trade that doesn't go according to plan, even if you make a win off that trade. We were talking about that earlier. You don't want to build those neural connections when you're not sticking to your plan. So it's a very important part of trading.
And the next practical tip we've got here is something called the 5-trade reset. So if you catch yourself spiraling, you want to create some kind of buffer. You want to create some kind of reset for yourself. So stop trading is the first thing to do here. Then journal what's going on in your head. As I said, write down your emotional state. How is the spiraling making you feel? Why are you spiraling? Then take only 5 trades after that. Super strict criteria, only on your plan, and no exceptions.
Yeah, it's basically about regaining control and hitting the brakes before things start piling up in the wrong direction.
So I think what we're saying here, and I think we said this at the top, Alison, is that, look, nobody's perfect. We're all guilty of making impulsive trades. You're going to have off days. You're going to have days where that confidence bank is going to have a lot of withdrawals in it. But if you can even, let's say, reduce a percentage, like even at 30-40% of your bad trades, you're still going to be making a huge difference to your balance at the end of the day, your balance at the end of the month. And the more you do it, you create this positive feedback, and the better you'll become at it.
And then you really want to think about your main trigger. Is it boredom? Is it FOMO? Is it revenge trading? Once you're aware of what it is, you can become aware of it and then really work on it. And that awareness then will create automatically better trading.
And then, like I said, you're not alone in this. Everybody fights this battle. Everybody knows how this feels. But with the right tools and the right mindset, you can get on top of it.
Great. Well, thanks so much for joining me today, Chris. And I hope this episode helped you guys out there. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. And please remember to subscribe and like.
Yeah, fantastic. And next week, we've got a special episode for you guys. We're going to be talking to Michael Brown, who's the Chief Research Analyst at Pepperstone. Should be a really interesting one. We're going to cover a lot of ground. We'll be talking about Pepperstone as a broker. We're talking about his background in trading. And we'll also be talking about the mad markets that we're seeing now, Alison. That's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one.
Yeah, it'll be good. Fantastic. We'll speak to you next week, Alison.
Cool. Cheers, Chris.